I'm Casey Chappell, and this is my story. In September 2017, I went to a regular doctor's appointment with my gynecologist, and she did an exam, and she had felt something, so she did an ultrasound and said that I had a cyst on my right ovary. So I went in for the surgery, and they actually canceled it because they said that my echocardiogram came back bad, and so they sent me to a cardiologist who had found that I had something wrong with my heart that wouldn't affect anything with the surgery. So I got rescheduled for the surgery. And leading up to the surgery, I was a mess. I was worried. I didn't think I'd survive it. I wanted to write letters to the kids. I just had no peace about it whatsoever, and I never had surgery before, so it was a small surgery, but to me, I'd made it a pretty big deal. I went in the second time for the surgery, woke up thrilled, and that's when my doctor came in and said that she didn't remove my right ovary or the cyst that was on it because I didn't have one, but I had a large mass behind my right ovary. So they sent me home that afternoon, and I was with my mom, who cried the entire way home, and it hadn't really set in with me yet because my doctor had mentioned that she thought it kind of looked scary to her, and she didn't touch it, thought it looked like it might be cancerous. So the year before, we had lost my grandpa and my uncle both to cancer. Both had given just one a couple weeks and one a month before they had passed. And so it was kind of, devastating news to hear because we had already kind of experienced it. So that night I got home and I had family and friends that came over and checked on me. And an uncle that I want to mention just because he, through the whole thing, was the one that kept showing me Jesus and, reminding me that he had a plan for my life. I had a rough night. I had a rough couple nights. And then I finally just, I cried out to Jesus. And I hadn't talked to him a lot since my uncle and my grandpa had passed. And not because I thought I was angry with him, but I think I had more hurt than I realized. And so I started asking God, what have I done wrong? What did I do? Why is it my turn? Because I felt like, our family was being picked off and it had gotten to me. And he spoke to me and he showed me that I hadn't done anything wrong and I wasn't at fault and that he loved me and he had loved my grandpa and he had loved my uncle, and we just live in a world of hurt and pain and things happen, and he wants to walk through it with us and not for us to blame him. It's not fair because he's not put it on me or he hadn't on them. And so I promised him that night, I said, God, I promise that I'll tell my story, our story, because I believe that things are going to be fine and you're going to walk it out with me. After that, I went for a CT scan that showed things that looked a little bit better. But my doctor had said, she hadn't seen anything like it before. And they sent me for a biopsy. The biopsy doctor had told me that he was going to drain it, so I thought it was going to be over that day. Once he got done, I asked him if he had drained it, and he said no, that it was solid, and he said he had never seen anything like it, and then he just kind of walked off. He had just left me with that, and so I went to my doctor, and she told me that everything looked like it was benign, but still she didn't know what it was, and so she sent me to a surgeon. So when I got to the surgeon, the first thing my surgeon said was that the biopsy didn't work, that they weren't able to get anything for the biopsy, and so I would need to have another biopsy. So he took me out and he showed me on the screen the mass. So at that time, that's when he had told me that it was impossible to remove, and that's what he had noted in my chart, that it was impossible to remove, but he still wanted to do the biopsy, and so he wanted to cut me open and do this big biopsy, and he said that would kind of be a risky surgery going in and getting the biopsy, but it needed to be done because we need to find out if it was cancer or not. So that was the first appointment that I actually left and just cried and cried because I just felt like, how could something so large and causing so many problems inside of me be here to stay? And so I went home that night, and through all of this, I usually give myself that one day where I can just be really hurt and really angry and really mad. But I know that the next day I've got to change that attitude, and I can't dwell in that place. And so I did that night. And then I woke up that morning, and God just reminded me that everything is possible with him. So what the doctor had said was impossible, God said it's possible. And I believed it. As soon as I ask for answers and he gives them to me, I believe what he tells me. And so I believed that it was possible. And so we scheduled an appointment with a different doctor. So I went to Vanderbilt, to the cancer center there, and met with a surgeon. And he had said, we need to do an MRI. We need more pictures and images. We need to do our homework because, what we're dealing with is, more of a risky surgery. But he said, but I believe that it has to come out, and it will. He told me right then it's going to come out. It can't stay. And so that was the first time that I left an appointment where my hope was not just in God, but but in the doctor, I really believe that, I was in the right place. They called me a few weeks later, had me come back in. They showed me the tumor on the screen where it was pushing up against things and just the kind of trouble that it was causing different organs. And so she walked me through the procedure and said that we would probably have to shave my pelvic bone, said that we would probably go ahead and take out some of my rectum, and then they would have different surgeons in there for the surgery for different things that they might have to do. And so she wasn't sure about, other organs and, how bad the tumor was, stuck to everything. So I still left, happy that it was coming out, even though it was a little scary, about the surgery itself. And I had gotten the call and they gave me my surgery date, and then I started getting really worried and laying in bed at night and just thinking about it. And I had talked to my family doctor, and they're like, hey, you can come in and we can put you on a low dose of something that'll just kind of, take the edge off, and maybe you won't, worry so much. Because I pictured myself going in for the surgery, just a basket case. And so that night I just, I prayed, and I was like, I just got to get through this without that. And I really believe that joy comes in the morning. And in the Bible, it says that. And for me, I take it as at night. That's when I worry the most. And so I worried the most about the surgery and just everything in general. That's where I worry. And then when I wake up in the morning, usually I've forgotten about every worry I had. And that's what I call joy in the morning. And so that happened for me. And I knew then that, I was just going to do it. It was reality. It was happening to me, and I was going to face it. So I went in for the surgery, and on the way up, I'd been praying, that I needed peace, I needed help. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to just walk in that hospital and just let them do what they needed to do without God. And so that day we went up, and I couldn't eat or drink. I had to take medicine all day long, and we got to the hotel, and the next morning I got up, I got ready, and I wasn't worried. I went in, they started sticking me and getting me all prepared, and I never cried, I never felt worried, and it was such a peace that I'd never felt before. And it was God, he was there with me then, he was all over me, and how I was able to do it was with him with me, and he had promised it. And there he was. He had showed up when I needed him the most. I'd only asked him a couple questions, and one was how much pain I'd be in when I woke up. I wanted to know if I'd wake up crying, and they said, yeah, that there was a possibility that would be the case. And I said, okay. I was still okay with it. And so I woke up from surgery, no pain at all. My surgeon actually had told the family and myself that she wouldn't call any surgery perfect, but mine couldn't have came any closer to that. And so instead of shaving my pelvic bone or removing anything else, it just peeled out. She said, for whatever reason, and she didn't know, they were able to go in there, pretty much with their hands and just peel it away. So my surgery was hours less than it should have been. And I knew, and some people hear the story and they're like, well, that's how it was the entire time. And for me, I don't believe that. I believe that God did a work in my life. I believe he did a work in my body. I believe that he changed the circumstances for me. I believe that he took the impossible and he made it possible, and I believe it. So this is my tumor, or was my tumor. It's a little over 4 inches, and it was deep in my pelvic area. And so when you think about how small that area is, for something like this, it's pretty large. It definitely could have done a lot of damage had it been left in there. I had a few rough days at the hospital, of course, and then I came home on a walker because I actually had nerve damage from the surgery in my right leg. And so they sent me home on a walker, and I hadn't begun therapy yet because I was in too much pain and having a hard time getting out of bed. And so I started letting the devil get in my head a little bit, and tearing me down. And so I had a few really rough nights, and I'd gotten to where I needed help going to the bathroom because I would scream and cry. And I'd actually messaged a friend and just told her, I was like, listen, like, I'm having these thoughts, this is what's going on. And then she started reminding me, of the word, and that, that it was the devil that was, putting these thoughts in my head. And so that night I laid in bed and I woke up and I had to go to the bathroom. I just started remembering things that she had said. And so I just started rebuking the devil, and I just started saying the name of Jesus. And everybody, you hear it at church, they're like, oh, that there's so much power just in the name of Jesus. And I've always believed it, but I don't think that I believed it as much as I did that night, because I started raising up and I started speaking the name of Jesus. And I spoke the name of Jesus all the way to the bathroom. I shouted the name of Jesus all the way to the bathroom. And I got to the bathroom with no pain. And so I praised him all the way back. And how I didn't wake up everybody in the house, I don't know, because I was shouting the name of Jesus, because there's power in it. And it was proof that night in my own house that the power of Jesus changed my circumstances right then. And so I woke up the next morning with a new attitude, and I started rebuking the devil more and started going to therapy 3 times a week and getting better and better every day. And my last visit, my doctor had said that, with the nerve damage, it could be 1 year, 2 years, or it could be forever. And I don't believe it, because I believe in the possible. So I believe that I'm going to be 100% and I'm going to be healed, and I owe it all to God.